You ever have one of those moments where you're sitting in a room full of people, everyone's laughing and talking and seeming totally fine, and you suddenly see it? I mean, really see it. The fear behind the laughter, the desperation behind the success, the emptiness behind the smiles. And you look around wondering, does anybody else see this? Am I the only one who can feel that we're all pretending here? That's when you realize, seeing what others don't isn't enlightenment. It's not some spiritual gift or blessing. It's dangerous. It's isolating. It's the loneliest thing in the world. Nobody tells you this part. All the spiritual teachers, all the books about awakening, they talk about the peace, the clarity, the freedom. And sure, those things come. But they don't tell you about the danger. They don't warn you that once you start seeing clearly, you can't unsee. And you can't go back to the comfortable blindness everyone else is living in. I started seeing things differently about 10 years ago. It wasn't dramatic. No lightning bolt, no burning bush. Just a slow, creeping awareness that the world everyone agreed was real wasn't. Or at least, it wasn't the whole picture. It was like someone turned up the brightness on reality, and suddenly I could see all the mechanisms, all the patterns, all the unconscious behaviors that keep people trapped. And at first, I thought this was amazing. I thought, great, now I understand how things work, now I can help people, now I can share this awareness. Wrong. So wrong. What nobody tells you is this: seeing clearly comes with a cost. 7, to be exact. Here's the first danger of seeing what others don't. You become a threat. Not because you're trying to be, not because you're aggressive or preachy or trying to force your perspective on anyone, but simply because your presence reminds people of what they're avoiding. You're walking evidence that there's another way to see things, and that terrifies people who built their entire identity on not seeing. I remember trying to talk to old friends about what I was discovering, about how most of our suffering is self-created, about how the ego is just a story we tell ourselves, about how we're all playing roles in a game we forgot was a game. And I watched their faces change, the walls go up, the polite smiles that really mean, please stop talking. They didn't want to know. They weren't ready. And my seeing made them uncomfortable because it implied they were missing something. Nobody likes feeling like they're missing something, especially when they've convinced themselves they have it all figured out. The second danger, you lose your tribe. The people you used to connect with, the ones who felt like home, suddenly you don't fit anymore. The conversations that used to engage you now feel hollow. The activities that used to excite you now seem pointless. The goals everyone's chasing, you can see right through them. You're at a party and someone's talking about their promotion, their new car, their vacation, and you can see it's not really about any of those things. It's about validation. It's about proving worth. It's about filling a hole that possessions can never fill. And you can't unhear that truth once you've heard it. You can't participate in the celebration the same way anymore because you see the suffering underneath it. So you start pulling back, not because you think you're better, but because you can't pretend anymore. You can't fake enthusiasm for things that you see are just distractions from deeper pain. And people notice. They feel you pulling away. They say you've changed. They say you're not fun anymore. They say you think you're enlightened now, don't you? And the worst part, they're kind of right. You have changed. You do see things they don't. And there's no way to explain it without sounding exactly like what they're accusing you of. The third danger, and this is the one that almost broke me, you start doubting your own sanity. Because when you see things that nobody else sees, when you perceive patterns and truths that everyone around you is blind to, you start wondering, am I crazy? Am I making this up? Is this clarity, or is this delusion? I went through a period where I genuinely questioned whether I'd lost my mind, because the world everyone else lived in felt like a mass hallucination to me. All these people running on the hamster wheel, chasing the same things, playing the same games, having the same conversations, repeating the same patterns generation after generation. And nobody seemed to notice. Nobody seemed to question it. And there I was, seeing it all so clearly it hurt. Seeing how we create our own prisons, seeing how we mistake our thoughts for reality, seeing how we're all searching for something outside ourselves that can only be found within. And I couldn't understand why everyone else didn't see it too. That's when the real danger hit me, the isolation. The profound, soul-crushing isolation of seeing what others don't. You can be in a room full of people and feel completely alone. You can be in a relationship and feel like you're talking to someone through a thick glass wall. You can be surrounded by family and feel like an alien who crash-landed on the wrong planet. Because you're operating from a completely different framework of reality than they are. They're seeing the movie. You're seeing the screen, the projector, and the audience all at once. You can't just watch the movie anymore. You can't get lost in it. And everyone else just wants to enjoy the show, and here you are talking about the mechanics of film projection. The fourth danger, you become responsible for what you see. Once you see the suffering, once you see the unconscious patterns, once you see how people trap themselves, you feel compelled to do something about it. To help. To wake people up. To share what you've discovered. But here's the brutal truth I learned. You can't wake people up. You just can't. They have to wake themselves up. And most people don't want to wake up. They want to stay asleep. Because being asleep is comfortable. Being asleep means you don't have to question everything. Being asleep means you can keep playing the game without seeing that it's a game. So you watch people suffer. You watch them make the same mistakes over and over. You watch them chase things that will never fulfill them. You watch them build walls that keep them from the very love they're seeking. And you can see exactly what they're doing and why they're doing it and how they could stop. But you can't tell them because they're not ready to hear it. And that, my friends, that's a special kind of torture. Seeing the solution and being unable to share it. Seeing the prison and being unable to hand someone the key because they don't believe they're in a prison. The fifth danger, you lose your motivation for the normal world. When you see through the game, you stop wanting to play. Career advancement. Why? To prove something to people who are also playing a game they don't know they're playing. Money. Sure, it's useful, but you see it's not going to fill the existential void. Fame. You see it's just another trap, another mask, another role that distances you from your true self. So what do? How do you participate in a world that's built on values you no longer believe in? How do you set goals when you've seen that all goals are just the ego trying to become more, trying to be better, trying to escape the present moment? You become paralyzed, or you withdraw. Or you find yourself going through the motions, doing what's expected, but feeling like a ghost haunting your own life. I spent 2 years barely working after my awakening intensified. People thought I was depressed, lost, going through a crisis, and maybe I was. But it wasn't the kind of crisis they thought. It was the crisis of seeing clearly in a world that rewards blindness. It was the crisis of being awake in a world that's designed for sleep. The sixth danger, and this one sneaks up on you, spiritual superiority. You start seeing so clearly that others are asleep, that they're trapped, that they're suffering unnecessarily, and a part of you starts feeling special, different, more evolved. And that's ego creeping back in through the back door. Because here's the thing, seeing clearly doesn't make you better than anyone. It just means you're seeing clearly. The person who's asleep, they're exactly where they need to be in their journey. You're not ahead of them. You're just on a different part of the path. And the moment you think you're more enlightened than someone else, you've lost the plot entirely. But it's hard not to fall into that trap when you're seeing what others don't. It's hard not to feel separate, special, different. And that separation, that specialness, that's just another form of ego, another trap, another way of maintaining the illusion of a separate self. The seventh danger, you see your own patterns too. And this is perhaps the most uncomfortable part. Because when you develop the ability to see unconscious patterns in others, you inevitably start seeing them in yourself. And you can't hide from yourself anymore. You can't pretend you're fine when you see exactly how you're sabotaging yourself. You can't lie to yourself when you've developed the ability to see through lies. You see your own ego games, your own defense mechanisms, your own desperate attempts to be somebody, to matter, to be loved. You see how you manipulate, how you perform, how you hide, and you can't unsee it. You're stuck with this awareness of your own unconscious patterns, which means you're constantly catching yourself being human. And that's exhausting. It's exhausting to see your own machinery while it's running. It's like trying to watch a movie while simultaneously being aware that you're watching a movie. The immersion is broken. The illusion is shattered. So what do you do with this danger? How do you live when you see what others don't? Here's what I've learned, and it took me years to figure this out. You have to make peace with it. You have to accept that seeing clearly comes with a price. The price is loneliness. The price is isolation. The price is not fitting in anymore. The price is watching people suffer and not being able to help them. The price is losing your old life, your old self, your old tribe. But you also gain something. You gain truth. You gain authenticity. You gain freedom from the unconscious patterns that were running you. You gain the ability to live from a deeper place, even if that place is lonely. And eventually, if you're patient, you find others who see. They're rare, they're scattered, but they exist. And when you meet someone else who sees what you see, who understands without you having to explain, who lives in that same reality you do, it's like coming home after a long exile. Those connections, as rare as they are, they're worth all the loneliness. One real connection with someone who sees is worth 1,000 surface connections with people who don't. You also learn to hold it lightly, to see clearly, but not to be attached to others seeing. To know the truth, but not to need others to validate it. To be awake, but not to make others wrong for sleeping. Because everyone wakes up in their own time. Everyone sees when they're ready to see. And maybe the biggest lesson, you learn that seeing what others don't isn't about being special or different or enlightened. It's about being human in a more conscious way. It's about taking responsibility for your own awareness. It's about living authentically even when authenticity makes you weird. The danger of seeing what others don't is real. It will cost you your old life. It will cost you relationships. It will cost you the comfort of fitting in. It will cost you the ease of not knowing. But the alternative is worse. The alternative is going back to sleep. The alternative is pretending you don't see what you see. The alternative is betraying your own awareness to make others comfortable. And once you've seen, really seen, you can't betray that. You can't unsee. You can't go back. So you move forward. You accept the danger. You embrace the loneliness. You find your people. You learn to live in truth even when truth is uncomfortable. You learn to be okay with being the only one in the room who sees what you see. Because that's the price of clarity. That's the cost of waking up. That's the danger of seeing what others don't. And even knowing all of this, even knowing the price, I wouldn't go back. I wouldn't choose blindness over sight. I wouldn't choose comfort over truth. Because there's something more valuable than fitting in. There's something more important than being understood. There's something more real than the collective dream. And once you've touched that reality, once you've seen behind the veil, you can never be satisfied with the illusion again. That's the danger. And that's the gift. They're the same thing.